So I thought I'd make a quick update on what I will be playing in League starting in 0.2. I will be playing Warrior, because that is my favorite class. I've been speedrunning Warrior, and I've spent some time trying to figure out what is the fastest way to get through the campaign, what is the strongest build in early maps for the first week for Warrior, and I think that it is gonna be Leap Slam and Bone Shatter combo. It's really strong. It's gonna do a lot of damage. You're gonna be able to rush to T15s easily, and you're gonna be able to do the first level bosses pretty easily with some skill, I would say. And you're gonna be able to clear whole screens. It's gonna be really strong. And with the patch notes we saw yesterday and gem changes today, we're not gonna see any I think in general we're gonna get a buff. For sure, getting a buff in general. Some of the skills we are using, like Perfect Strike, got a bit of a nerf, like 25% less damage in general. Martial Tempo is a little bit worse. Bone Shatter technically is a little bit worse, like 20% less damage at the start, and at level 20 it's like 8% less damage. But I think it's fine. Basically, what I will be doing is I will be using the standard kind of like speed running tree up until like level 29. So I will be grabbing all the damage nodes first. And here we are at Act 1 basically. Grab some in, some dex, so we can fit in magnified effect and win of opportunity. We rush to singular purpose to get some extra damage on our main hand weapon set. We'll be using two. We will be using a two-handed weapon set and a one-handed weapon set with shield charge. The one-handed weapon set is only to move Ryan quickly in the zones, not to kill at all too. So it's basically only used for shield charging and leap slamming quickly. And so we spec singular purpose. It's the first node we spec into our two-handed weapon set only because we don't want to reduce the attack speed on our one-handed weapon set that we need to move around quickly. And so we grab this, and then after that we rush onto Resolute Technique, and this is going to be at level 20. And at level 20 we are in the middle of or ending Halani Gates in Act 2. I will grab this, I will finish Halani Gates, I will go back to Trader's Passage and do Balboa. And the reason for that is that Balboa has some inherent extra evasion. So having a Resolute Technique before you fight Balboa is gonna make that fight so much smoother. And at that point you could just immediately go and ascend. I will not do Titan, I will actually do Smith of Katava. And I think the first nodes that I will grab is Fire and Lightning Res. So I'm just gonna use a normal body armor, grab the Fire and Lightning Res, because that's gonna be incredibly strong throughout the entirety of the campaign. It's gonna make the gearing easier as well. Obviously I will unspec both those nodes later, because they're not gonna be that strong when you get to maps and so forth. But for the campaign, that's gonna be really strong. Now, if you want to play Titan or if you want to go for Warbringer, this kind of build still works, right? It's basically you can do the campaign and you can do T15s without any Ascendancy. So if you want to do something else, respec completely later, I still suggest you do this. And if you still want to play the Bone Shatter build for a long time, for like a week, I think both Titan with the hulking form and the Warbringer with a buffed block nodes is going to be really strong as well. But I think for sure that Smith of Katava is going to be the best League starter Ascendancy, at least for Warrior. And then after level 29, so level 29 we are basically finishing up Act 2. And one of the big changes in Act 2 is that we cannot farm the magic pack in Dreadnought. They removed it completely, so we're just gonna have to play normal. We're just gonna make sure we are like 25, maybe 26 before we reach the Dreadnought. So we're gonna kill more packs than usual maybe in the Shard and Spires of the Shard, which is fine because the density there is pretty good. And then maybe farm the last zone of the Dreadnought until we're level 28, 29, and we want a decent Temple Mall. And we're not gonna go all in on this Temple Mall, we just want a decent Temple Mall. And then we're gonna do go into Act 3, and we're gonna be looking for a good leading Great Hammer, so something like 40 increased fizz or better. And then we're gonna just slam that thing with all the exiles we have and wriggle it and put the blacksmith whetstones and runes on it. And that leading Great Hammer is basically gonna be our weapon for the entirety of the campaign. And even you can, if you have a good leading Great Hammer, you can do very high tier maps with that as well. So that is one of the strong sides with doing Leaf Slam and Bone Shredder, is that it's gonna be like cruel, and maps is gonna be very easy to gear up for, and you're gonna be really strong in the campaign. And so in Act 3, starting in Act 3, there's basically two variants for this build. One is if you just want to get a strong build quickly, I would suggest that you just rush these AoE nodes, because the AoE nodes is obviously good for clear, but it's also damage because you're gonna make the shockwaves from Bone Shatter overlap. And I mean, even with only these two nodes or clusters, you are sometimes gonna end up just clearing entire screens. But if you want to run the campaign fast, so this this variant of a tree is it's actually made up by Angormus, the best runner I think we have right now, and he's basically going down this way. We also have an AoE cluster here, which is nice. We use that to for clear, obviously. But on our second weapon set, we grab all of these attack speed nodes. And the reason we grab these attack speed nodes is so that we can move through the zones very quickly. So at around level 37, we basically have been, I would say, we will be level 30 something and we reach Azak Bog, and then we're gonna farm Azak Bog until maybe level 35, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna go through the pacing exactly here. If you want to know the pacing, I've linked Angormus pub in the notes, and if you read Angormus notes, he has all of these, like what level you need to be, what supports you need to grab first, and all the pacing, what level where you should farm and stuff like that in his notes. So I highly suggest you read that if you want to go fast. So basically we finished Azak bog farming here. We continued a little bit further. This is actually this is probably by the end of Act 3 we're gonna have all these nodes. And then in Cruel, this is the end of Red Veil. Red Veil, we're gonna basically reach Red Veil at around level 39 or level 40. So that's when we're level 39-ish when we finish Act 3. And then we're just gonna continue speccing these attack speed nodes. And at this point, we are basically just leap slamming and shield charting through the zones and ignoring most packs, like 80% of the packs. We're only gonna kill like the big magic and rare packs or massive normal packs. And we're still gonna be able to be around level 58, 59 by the end of Cruel, and at that level we're ready for maps. If you're not able to reach level 58 to 59, you can farm like Azak Bog in Cruel as well. You can also farm XP in the middle checkpoint in Agorath is fine as well if you need it. But usually you should still end up being like 58, 59. And after And after this, obviously up here, we also have some extra AoE nodes, and the AoE nodes is gonna make the build feel so good. And here is grabbing Shattering Blow here. It's gonna enable primarily the armor explosion that we can link to Bone Shatter. So when we break armor, so when we have heavy stun, a normal old magic mob, this 50% of armor broken is gonna be more than 100 because there's a multiplicative thing built in for magic and normal packs. So we'll break armor on all the magic and normal packs. It will proc armor explosions. We will have another explosion on our Bone Shatter, and it will also enable us to use Scavenge Plating. So we will double our, or significantly, like, get 40% more armor when we're clearing zones, which is gonna be great for defenses because armor is still pretty good in the campaign. It tapers off significantly later in maps, but for the campaign, it's still pretty decent. And when we reach around level 58 and we're finished with Cruel, we are gonna completely remove these nodes because we're not gonna skip 80% of the packs in maps, right? So we don't need this set anymore, and instead we're gonna use the second set for an ignite swap. So before the patches came out and the changes to Hammer of Gods, we would use Hammer of the Gods here for like a massive damage, massive ignites, and one-shotting bosses basically. But unfortunately, Hammer of Gods have been changed significantly. Like, it's mechanically very different. You need to heavy stun a lot of enemies, which might mean still fine for killing rares, straggling rares in maps, but it's not going to be good for single target and bosses in general. So we will just continue using Perfect Strike. There might be a better solution. I just haven't come up with a better solution yet for what we want to use for single target. But I think Perfect Strike is going to be fine for now. And then at this point, we also want to try grab as many strength nodes as we possibly can. And if we're still running the leading Great Hammer, I think the nodes around here, you're going to have like almost 300 strength at this point with gear that you just dropped. And that will enable you to use Giant's Blood. And with Giant's Blood, we obviously we can equip Shield, which later on we will very easily cap by just grabbing these nodes and this node. So if you have around 40% flat block on your shield, you're gonna easily be capping that, which is extremely strong. So at this point you're very early in maps, and you've grabbed your second Ascendancy probably, and you're gonna be capped in res here. Definitely capped in res if you're Smith or Ketava, and you're capped block, so you are, at least for low tier maps, kind of tanky. And if you're Smith or Ketava, you're probably super tanky because you're starting to get some max fire res. And then, so later on, so this is later on, you are gonna go down the tree over here for more AoE nodes and some more ignite nodes for a weapon swap. Nothing really special. If you are running Smith of Ketava, you're obviously gonna spec into Fortune Flame, which increases your maximum fire res for all nodes. So if you get some maximum fire resistance, that's gonna be applied to cold and lightning as well. And you are very easily or very quickly gonna be able to get 90% all res on your elemental resistances, basically. So that's basically what the tree looks like. For the skills at this point, there's nothing really special. Perfect strike, I'm actually not entirely sure how I will, like when I get a greater jeweler, some perfect strike, what kind of support I'll put there. Definitely win of opportunity. If we have some extra AoE, concentrated effect is gonna be fine. I haven't tested close combat yet, but it's probably fine. Rage Forged, and you might swap to Primal Armament as well. Maybe Ignition if you're not igniting early maps. Bone Shatter, you're gonna grab obviously Impact Shockwave, Magnified Effect, those are the two most important ones. You grab Armor Explosion sometime in Act 3 as mentioned, and then Fire Infusion and Primal Armament, and hopefully the goal is that you will end up just... well, you're easily gonna blow up big packs. It's like normal mobs and magic packs are just gonna explode. Some rares might survive, but hopefully in like when you're level 90, you will be able to blow up even rares as well. Leap Slam is actually getting quite a bit of a change. So Leap Slam both have more stun build up than it had in 0.1, and it also has more damage, which means that at least at higher levels of the gem, which means that you are gonna do a lot of more stun build up than you used to do in 0.1. But that is gonna be fine. That would be a problem in 0.1, but in 0.2 we have a new support called Brink, the Brink support gem. And what the Brink support basically does is that it only prevents you from stunning. So you can build up stun, but you can't actually heavy stun. Which is gonna make the Leap Slam Bone Shatter build feels so much nicer because you don't have to juggle around with how much stun you're actually building up. So it's gonna, this support gem is gonna make this build feel so much nicer. And the rest of the supports for Leap Slam is basically just fillers. We want to use Martial Tempo to increase the speed of our leaps basically. Holy Descent, Maim, Overpower if you need it. Blind can be nice if you once you get some evasion, or if you're going for evasion. So one of the things that you can do is get some gloves with a lot of armor, and you can use spec into leather-bound gauntlets, and you will get a significant amount of evasion. You can have rings with evasion, amulets with increased evasion, jewels with increased evasion, and it should be possible to get evasion rating at like 40% or evade chance at around 40-50% without too much investment, which I think is definitely worth going for. Now there's a few changes to the patch in the patch notes that is worth mentioning. So first of all, Impact Shockwave, which is probably the most important support gem for Aftershock, for Bone Shatter, has technically been nerfed. Its AoE is 1.8 meters instead of 2, but there apparently was a bug where Impact Shockwave was not scaling with area modifiers, which might mean that we actually got a significant buff. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it if like the AoE of my Impact Shockwave was not scaling correctly in 0.1, but there's actually a chance that whatever we experience in 0.1 has been significantly improved. Another important thing is cannibalism. Cannibalism is great for sustain, so once you go blood magic and you blow up and your attack's gonna use life instead, it's gonna be fine because every time you blow up a pack, you're basically gonna just get full life again. With cannibalism, it's the strongest spirit gem that you can use. It's incredibly nice, so it got pretty significantly nerfed, but I still think it's gonna be incredibly strong. Rolling Slam got a pretty significant buff, so before level 22 you're going to be using Rolling Slam to prime instead of Leap Slam. And it's not based, but its added total attack time has been reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second, so it's gonna feel, I think, a lot smoother. Another big thing is that magic, rares, and uniques are much easier to prime for stun now as well, so it's gonna be 10% more easier to do. So it's gonna be easy to both be able to prime normal packs and magic packs now at the same time, maybe even rares. Especially once you get the Bring Champ, you're just gonna be able to prime any mob for stun. Martial Tempo got a slight nerf. It's fine. It went from 25% attack speed to 20. Wind of Opportunity got a nerf together with Perfect Strike, which basically means that your Perfect Strike is gonna do something like 26% less damage. That is fine. Perfect Strike was incredibly strong in 0.1. It's still gonna be strong, especially in the campaign. So I'm not too worried about that. Hammer of the Gods got a pretty significant change. No longer has a cooldown. So basically what you want to do is you want to stun enemies and you want to gather a resource called Glory. So when you stun enough enemies, you will be able to use Hammer of the Gods, which I think makes Hammer of the Gods very clunky for bosses. It might feel good to use in maps for killing straggling or tanky rares, but I might just end up not using it at all. It also got a pretty significant damage nerf. So as I said, this build will work for any warrior. You don't have to ascend at all, it would still work. But me personally, I will go for Smith of Kitava because I feel like Smith of Kitava fixes a lot of issues that warrior has now right now. So one of the issues that you're gonna run into when you get into maps is that you're gonna feel a bit squishy. You're not gonna have a big health pool. The first tier of maps you might not be res capped, and it's gonna be really expensive to build up a higher res cap to 90%. And it's gonna be difficult to mitigate Fizz because your armor's effectiveness is gonna significantly be reduced in higher tier maps. And I think just like damage wise, we're doing good with Warrior, with Leap Slam and Bone Shatter. So that's kind of fixed already. So the defenses, this Ascendancy just kind of takes care of. So my plan is that at around level 22 in Act 2, when I go for my first Ascendancy, I will just grab the Fire Resistance and the Lightning Resistance. Having those resistances capped in campaign is gonna make the campaign so much smoother. Fire Resistance is in general the most important resistance. Most zones have mobs that deals fire damage, some bosses deals fire damage, and there's a lot of bosses that deal a lot of lightning resistance, so having that capped is really strong as well. Cold resistance is in general not as important as the other two, so it's fine to just skip that. But to not have to bother about having to gear for resistances in campaign is going to make it so much faster and so much smoother. And then for my second Ascendancy, I will hope to get a few Ruby Rings probably, so that I get a lot of fire resistance. But even if I don't have Ruby Ring, I have the Tantalum Alloy. So I'm still gonna be able to utilize Cold Stalker. So basically when I end the campaign, I'm gonna have Cold Stalker, I'm gonna have Tantalum Alloy and Lead Lining. And then I will respec out of Tantalum Alloy and Lead Lining once I get some better gear. And at the same time, maybe do the third Ascendancy so that I get 14 Flame. And then I can use spec into, well, I could keep Tantal of Valor for a while, and I can use spec into Flowing Metal if I need to, but ideally I get gear so that both of these nodes are no longer needed. And at that point, I think Molten Symbol is probably the strongest node you can grab here in general, because it's really difficult to find ways to mitigate Fizz right now because Armors is very weak. So Molten Symbol is itself kind of like a Cloak of Flame at home. It's like a weak variant of Cloak of Flame, which is a very strong armor. And then after that, definitely grabbing increased maximum life. It's just generically strong. If I need to, I will grab increased strength. You can also build a character that specs into life regeneration together with an expert steel plate or whatever it's called in 0.2. They changed the name. You're gonna be able to stack a lot of life regen. This 5% here is basically, there's no other way in the game, I think, where you can get this much life regen. So this node in itself could be very strong if you build into it. Internal layer is potentially very strong because it seems like some of the wisps might empower mobs to do more crits and more crit damage. We'll see how it feels. But if that's the case, then stacking reduced critical damage bonus from enemies is might be very strong. And other than that, I don't think any of the other nodes are worth taking, at least not for this build. Yeah, basically I can't say exactly what I will grab. I will just grab whatever here is needed to fix any issues in my build. And I think it's going to be incredibly strong for League Start.